Hello, Fight fans, and welcome to the 8th episode of Before the Bald Man Speaks. I'm your host, as always, Andrew Lawrence, and we are covering UFC Glasgow, UFC Fight Night 72, Bisping vs. Thales Leites, coming off of a split decision, Micheal Bisping, in a 5-round affair. Not too much controversy in this main event, in my opinion. We had Micheal Bisping really come out and take the first and second round, I feel like, with a lot of movement side to side and just superior striking, landing big unanswered shots throughout the first and second round. Thales Leites having a bit of success late in the first with a takedown, but ultimately it was a Micheal Bisping's game. He took over with, like I said, some crisp counterpunching and just some uninjured jabs and right hands. The card as a whole is a little bit of a mixed bag of fights. We had some mismatches throughout both the preliminary and main card, and a very competitive main event. A bit of an upset in the co-main with Evan Dunham taking a clear decision victory over Ross Pearson. Ross Pearson showing unable to shore up his wrestling inadequacies, so to speak. On today's show, we will have MMA State of Mind, Bob from MMA State of Mind on. He will be joining us in just a bit to break down all of tonight's action. A decent night for me betting. Actually had some time to look at this card and found some spots. Got a hit on Micheal Bisping and got a hit on Paddy Houlihan. Some easy favorites who I thought had some good odds on them. A bit lower than they probably should have been, given their opponents. Maybe I should have been more worried about that main event fight, as Thales Leites really stepped up to the plate striking-wise in an arena where he was supposed to be dominated by Micheal Bisping. If we're going down some of the rest of the preliminary card before we bring in Bob here. Joseph Duffy just absolutely starches Ivan George at the submission in the first round. Joanne Calderwood takes a unanimous decision victory on Courtney Casey, where she did not look all that good. Some very scary moments for Joanne Calderwood in that first round. Courtney Casey looking on the verge of maybe finishing, maybe putting her out. Joanne Calderwood recovers to win the round on 2 judges' scorecards, cruises through the second and the third rounds, recovering after a scary bit there in her hometown fight. Leon Edwards with a unanimous decision victory over Paul Poltek. Pollock showing an enormous chin and a real ability to take punishment from the clearly athletically superior Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, a Brit with maybe some future ahead of him on that. Probably Powell's last stint in the UFC there. Before that, to start off the main event, we had Leandro Mafra take on Stevie Ray, and Stevie Ray getting that early first round KO, possibly KO of the night in his hometown. To help us break down that main card and the preliminary card before it, we're happy to be joined by my good Twitter friend Bob from MMA State of Mind. How you doing, man?
I'll do better. How the final fight went has me borderline crying, but I'll get past. I'll pull through. I'll pull through for you.
I'm happy that you're willing to put on this a happy face for the show. We had a good spot on Leites there.
No, I had quite a bit on the fight does not go the distance because it was only minus 140, and there was at least 3 or 4 times it looked like Leites was going to have Bisping out and vice versa, and once it got to about the last round and a half, I knew that wasn't going to hit, and it was my biggest bet of the weekend. Haven't quite figured it out yet, but at best, it was a slight win for today. Maybe.
Now, I don't want to kick you while you're down, but with Micheal Bisping in that main event, how are you going to think that he closes it out? Micheal Bisping's the king of decisions.
Look at the Kung Fu fight. What I thought was going to happen is I thought it was going to be accumulation of strikes into the 4th or 5th round. Leites had more gas than I thought he would. I thought he would gas out near the midway point, maybe beginning of the 3rd, and then he would have got piled on in the 4th or 5th and just not been able to stand. And attrition by cuts or whatever. He actually had one cut by his eye that for a little bit I thought they might pull over for the doctor, but guess not.
Just a tiny little leaker. You almost hit there on the opposite end. And by the way, I totally agree with you. I actually predicted like a TKO stoppage in the 4th round for Michael Bisping here. So I don't think you were completely out of the realm of possibility. But almost looked like it went the other way, and Thales Leites almost looked like he was about to finish off that fight. Is Michael Bisping finally showing that chin? I mean, we've seen, Dan Hendo find it, but that's, very phenomenal amount of power. So Dan Hendo can really put out anyone, especially, all those years ago. But Michael Bisping known to kind of be able to take a shot, especially against someone of the striking acumen of Thales Leites. Are we starting to see him fade as a fighter, or was this just Michael Bisping being Michael Bisping?
I think his chin is starting to go a little bit, but what he's always kept is bouncing back. He recovers almost instantly. It's why every time Leites would rock him and then clinch up with him, it was the dumbest thing he could have done. If he would have rocked him and then continued on the attack, he might have been able to put him out. That's what Dan Henderson was able to do. He knocked him clean down and went for that finishing shot. There was a chance Bisping could have hopped up after that, even with that shot. He had ridiculous recovery.
Particularly in the 3rd round, there was that moment where it almost seemed like his clinch work saved Michael Bisping from going straight out. He kind of jellyfished against the cage there. Main event aside, or last thing that I want to touch on the main event is what rounds did you score to Michael Bisping and what did you score to Leites?
I'm trying to remember now. I had it 3-2. I had, I believe I had Bisping winning the 1st round, Leites the 2nd. I'm trying to remember now who I had the 3rd. I know I had it 3-2 with Bisping pulling it out near the end just because his accumulation of shots was more. For every one semi-big shot Leites landed, he got nailed by about 4 from Bisping.
Yeah, I found in the last I scored the rounds, the first rounds 1 and 2 to Michael, and 3 and 4 went to Thales. The 5th round, I think Michael finally found how to take less damage from Leites' counters, which really started landing in the 3rd and in the 4th round. There's a good, decent argument that Michael could have won 4 rounds in there. I think with I think the 3rd round being the clear one to Thales. One of the judges had it 4 rounds to 1 for Thales Leites in that decision. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, sometimes there's an interesting debate whether or not judges should have scoring in front of them. Live punch stats. For a fight like this, it makes perfect sense to have punch stats. There's just so much that happens, an accumulation of blows over a 5-minute round, that I think if you were to look at the numbers, Michael Bisping would clearly have landed more strikes in that fight. Okay, so moving on to the second and co-main event fight here. Ross Pearson taking a huge stumble loss against the underdog Evan Dunham, who just coasted through 3 rounds of wrestling. Ross Pearson, is this surprising to you, or we've kind of always known about his wrestling detriment? Is this a big shock to you that the Brit could get ground out by Evan Dunham?
I was oddly torn in this fight. I picked Pearson, but I bet Dunham because I thought it was a very close fight, and this was a big possibility this could happen. So I had money on Dunham straight and a little bit on Pearson by TKO KO at plus 175 to kind of hedge it out a little bit, because if he was going to win, that's how he was going to win. He wasn't going to win a decision against Evan Dunham. He was going to knock him out. And Dunham's been put out before, and I was talking to someone on Twitter while the fights were going on. It seems to be the first lesson they teach you in European wrestling is grab the cage. You got to grab that cage on the way down. They'll only call you for it rarely, and they'll only take a point away in the most extreme examples.
We've been a huge supporter here on this show of cheating in MMA. If you're not cheating, you are really not trying to win. I don't like betting on people who aren't willing to cheat. I mean, the most dominant champion in UFC history, John Jones, notorious cheater. this sport is at its very core a sport that rewards not listening to the rules due to the fact that the rules are enforced. So, yep, some great cage work there. Really didn't save anybody. We had Irish Joe Duffy in the third to final fight get a really quick submission victory. Was this just a squash match, or were you really impressed by what Joseph Duffy brought to the table?
I was impressed by him. It was a squash match, but I was more impressed by what he did and how he did. He was calm the whole time and just really showed how much his striking has developed. He's not just a jiu-jitsu guy anymore. He just seemed so calm. Even the few times that he was pinned up against the cage in a bad way, stayed calm, circled out, just got out of there and continued doing what he did. And I think we could officially say, since Todd Duffy is in shambles, that I am officially christening Joseph Duffy as Duffman, and I will perpetually call him that, and he will thrust in the direction of the problem, and he's going to win.
There can really only be one Duffman, and Joseph Duffy is now it. Someone should bestow him with the Simpsons cape and a couple cans of beer. It's really too bad that the Reebok outfits had to come at this stage, because really now they're depriving Joseph Duffy of dressing up as a Simpsons character before he comes out to fight.
Oh, that would be glorious.
It'd be so fantastic. I just did a quick lookup from Jason Floyd on Twitter at Jason _Floyd. If you follow him, gives round by round stats. Michael Bisping won the striking numbers and landed more strikes in every round except for the third. But overall, it was a very, very close fight as far as overall striking statistics. The unofficial fight stats have Michael Bisping landing 113 strikes to Thales Leites 94. And Thales Leites landing more accurately at 45% to the 38% landed by Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping, known as an accurate striker, so that maybe this does speak to the judges' scorecard of 49-46, or at least maybe the argument that Thales maybe could have taken this fight.
No, I agree. I mean, it was definitely closer than I thought it'd be. I really thought that Leites was going to come on huge in those first two rounds, and that's when he was going to be winging those punches that were landing and rocking Michael Bisping, and then Bisping would come on later. Like, Bisping is one of those fighters. He's built for a 5-round fight. His biggest losses have happened in a 3-round fight when he probably would have come on better later. And it's his detriment that this late in his career is when all the main events are 5 rounds. If it was possibly earlier in his career, he'd have a few more wins on that belt.
Yeah, definitely a good point. To continue kind of going back to moving down the card like we were, Joanne Calderwood looking really, I guess, lackluster and against a short, a late notice replacement in Courtney Casey. Won all 3 rounds on 2 judges' scorecards, but clearly struggled in the first when she got knocked down. Calderwood a fade for you going forward?
Yeah, she's not going too well going forward. I mean, she's all offense. She has very little to no defense, and as a striker with no defense, but yet doesn't like to get hit, it doesn't bode too well for her. There's definitely women in the 115-pound division she could beat, but anyone that's willing to take her down or someone who has solid defense, it won't look good. I do think it's funny that for the longest time, including myself, at the start of the 115-pound division, everyone wanted to see her versus the champion, Joanna, and if that would happen today, I don't think Calderwood would make it out of 2 rounds. I think she would just get demolished. I mean, just pinpoint accuracy against the face, and Joanna has such good defense.
Joanna's the next level of striking in the fact of just ferocity of volume. She might stop Joanne and capitalize on the holes that Courtney Casey found. It might end that thing early against Joanne Calderwood. Joanna Jędrzejczyk has one of those special rarities inside of a fighter. In like they have the quest to find the violence in the fight. They seem to bring the openings out of their their opponents and just really go after a fight, and it's almost a non-existent quality in the 115 division. Even a great striker or a really good striker like Calderwood, she's there and she's throwing really good technique, but there isn't that instinct towards creating, ultra violence like you see from JJ. And Jędrzejczyk would destroy Calder, wouldn't it? And it's not even a fight I'm really interested in seeing all that much.
Oh yeah, it would be just embarrassing for her. And there was so much fanfare for Calderwood coming off of the Tough Show, and I just want everyone to sit down and think and realize that everything that we wanted JoJo, Bad Mofo JoJo Calderwood to be is what Joanna Jędrzejczyk is. Everything we wanted her to be is what she is. So just take all that focus off Calderwood, all that nonsense fanfare. She's going to get beat. She's going to get beat bad in the future. Focus on Joanna Champion. She is fun and amazing to watch, and she has big check marks in all the places where Calderwood has negatives.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of just wanted this perfect striking demon in the 115-pound division for women because of, there's a nice juxtaposition between, cute small girls, being a tornado of throwing fists and legs. And Calderwood's not that, and You're absolutely right, JJ is. What do you want to see, matched up for Calderwood next? Where do you put her in the division? She's still ranked because of, a lot of the hype from the show. Who do you want to see her fight? Who do you think the UFC looks to find a win for? She's clearly very popular in Scotland and amongst the internet hardcore. Where do you think they put her?
Honestly, I think, although she's coming off of loss, probably the best person that they could put her against is Angela Hill. Angela Hill is predominantly a striker, not much ground to be there. She'll stand and strike with her, but hasn't been doing MMA that long, so Joanna could capitalize just on being the better technician. I mean, she could still possibly lose because she's showing not the best chin this early on in her career, but I think that's where the UFC will go with because she has the best shot of beating her, and has the most fanfare of the possible people that she'll go up against.
I think that's a tough draw for Angela Hill, who was a fighter, on the show that I seem to be pretty high on. She seemed to be the victim of a bad matchup, and she seemed to have been a victim of bad matchups throughout her career. But maybe that's more of a sign that she doesn't belong in the UFC. Moving on, Leon Edwards put a beating, just an absolute whooping on Paulo Pollock. Poor Paulo Pollock. Is he UFC caliber still?
I'm going to say no, but I do think he's better than some people give him credit for. It's fairly clear, at least to me, that Leon Edwards completely overlooked him, thought he was going to absolutely smash him, didn't think he had to try that hard, and when Pollock actually started putting up decent defense and counters, he realized he couldn't just one-shot him, and he actually had to dig deep and try, which was very evident coming in, let's say, about the third round when Edwards wasn't looking the freshest and was looking to be in a little bit of danger at a couple points.
Yeah, definitely. Leon Edwards, big British prospect here. I think that the UFC is still trying to cultivate, a new British star once Micheal goes. The hope that Leon Edwards is going to be one still exists there, and he still could develop into a fighter. But it was clearly evident that when he ran into a tough guy who wasn't ready to drop right away, that Leon kind of ran out of ideas quick of how to get him out of this fight. So Leonardo Mafra against Stevie Ray kicked off the opening fight on the main card here. A huge KO victory, maybe the knockout of the night, and definitely in front of that hometown crowd was something special for the people who were in attendance.
Absolutely, and you know what? I think I figured out what happened on this event. Because earlier in the card, I picked Von Lee. Thought he was gonna do pretty good, but he came in all Bob Marley, all hippie, all cool, and his violence, his hot streak was gone. I figured out what happened, guys. I figured it out in case any of you were wondering. I'm gonna put my hand in the picture so you realize how important this is. This is how it happened. Stevie Ray hunted down Von Lee. He stole his first name from him, which stood for violence. He added it to his own so he could make beautiful, beautiful Stevie Ray Vaughan music of violence all over his opponent and just wow the hometown crowd.
This was a fight card all about music. If you chose reggae in the opening, as you walk out, you went down, no question. If you were named anything remotely close to a musical artist, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you had the knockout of the night. Paul Redman, kind of close to rapper Redman, a rapper who's not doing so well in his career right now. He had a big decision loss. So really, you have to look at the musical references you were making before you stepped out into the octagon tonight.
We're just peering at the matrix. Okay, we're finding the cracks.
We're figuring out what the Illuminati has left behind. The paper trail is being followed. Let's talk about the preliminary fights, because there's knockouts galore. I think in total we had 4 knockouts in the first 6 fights, and the 2 decisions weren't too bad themselves. Out of those preliminary knockouts, who was the most impressive?
Well, I would want to say the opening fight of the card, but at some point, I think Brian Stan made the point that when someone's making their octagon debut, if you come at them early on top of those nerves, it's really going to mess them up for the rest of it, because they're just not ready for that action, and he laid him out quick. I don't know. As far as I thought was most impressive, if you wouldn't mind taking that one, I guess I need a minute to process that question.
No. I think to your first point about the first fight of the night. It turns out having the octagon jitters and getting kicked in the head doesn't turn out to be such a great performance. Chris LaRocha looked lost out there from minute 1. He was starstruck by the pomp and circumstance, and then that kick to the head just had him looking stupid. The 265-pound division is clearly the most laughable in all of mixed martial arts. And for a while, the UFC was exempt from it, but once you get into its lower-level fighters, it has the comedy of a Bellator heavyweight main event, easily.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the polar bear to come back in Bellator and just take over everybody, but actually, I'll tell you what, I think I've thought about what my favorite knockout from the early goings are. I loved Jimmy Rivera's knockout over Marcus Brimage. Marcus Brimage's chin is officially gone. I didn't think he had that good of one to start, and I mean, I guess he is just that photo negative of Krillin. That's Dragon Ball Z reference for anyone who doesn't get that. I think he wears. I fully admit I watched it as a child. It's part of my life, whatever.
Still happening. Dragon Ball Z is real, my friend.
I know. The new series is coming out. I'm going to watch it as a 27-year-old man. I'm going to love every minute of it. It's going to be glorious. I'll show it to my son. It's going to be awesome. Whatever. Beyond the point. Marcus Brimage was always a limited fighter, but I thought this fight was going to be similar to the Russell Doan fight. Although he did lose that fight, I think he rightfully should have won. I thought it was going to be close. I thought he was going to be able to get it to the floor, ran flush when he did, but I don't know. I guess after the Conor McGregor fight, the time off, the No Love Garbrandt fight, that his chin's just gone. I mean, I don't know if a jump up to 145 will help rescue it. He's really too small, not long enough, not tall enough for that weight class. So, I mean, the UFC will probably keep him around, but I think you might want to look at a KO prop on whoever he's fighting next, because it's not spelling out too well for the little man who's obsessed with Asian women.
Yeah, definitely. Marcus Brimage and his obsession with Asian women and Dragon Ball Z will be sorely missed in the UFC. I was always a big fan of him, but it seemed like he just jumped into too many bad spots there. Tiger Schulman, has kind of been looking for a showcase fighter, and maybe they have it here in Jimmy Rivera. But I think the story really is here, because I'm not really ready to anoint Jimmy Rivera as a spectacular fighter, as much as it is that Brimage has just been in some really bad spots against some really tough opponents early in his career. Marcus Brimage probably could have been groomed to be in the top 15 and be kind of a gatekeeper fighter for his career, but kind of shows in this game just how important it is to kind of have the right people and the right management around you to avoid up-and-comers who are very dangerous, taking on some future superstars in his career and getting clean clocked. This loss to me really, he showed great movement and he showed great awareness in the fight, but you got to be able to get hit a little bit if you're going to survive long term in MMA. And Marcus Brimage just doesn't have that anymore. My favorite KO of the night, out of everything, was the bricklayer. Yair Latifi going out there swinging wide punches and just
that was awesome.
Just cracking hamstringer. The bricklayer, very interesting UFC career. Took 2 losses. Of course, his first loss against Gegard Mousasi, as we all know, kind of a fight of his to lose. But then has got a series of favorable matchups, gone 2-1 in that time. A short, stocky guy for the division. Clearly never going to be elite at 205, but you got to feel some sort of affinity towards him for some reason. Am I all alone in this, or?
Win all the time, but you know what? He's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. As soon as he starts becoming a real technical striker and like a real conservative guy, I'm not going to like it. I just like seeing like a tiny, squat, oompa loompa looking fellow throwing big old bungalows out there.
He is going to be the 185 Jeremy Stevens. I mean, Jeremy Stevens is more competitive down at 45, but he's going to do what he did at 55. He's going to probably win. He's probably going to win 3, lose 2. Maybe go on a losing streak, then come back. He's going to beat all the guys that don't even belong in the 205 division. Anyone that could sniff top 14, 15, are either going to wrestle him to the end or outstrike him technically. But he's going to be so much fun to watch. And in this case, he put out a really good training partner. If you don't get that, I've realized that Hans Stringer is a terrible fighter. But he must be a wonderful training partner because he trains with Rico Verhoeven, he trains with Overeem. Basically, anybody who's anything in the Dutch kickboxing community has Hans Stringer as a training partner. So he must be an awesome training partner. Here's hoping he's doing that because he's not going to make it as a fighter.
The problem is there's some guys in gyms who are number 2s, and they just get put out there and they get knocked the fuck out a lot in training camp. Hans Stringer he's got Caesar Mutante disease. He's probably been put out at least 24 times in 24 times in training camp, and all those KOs have just left him, as a shell of a person. But this is my ultimate plan for to turn it back to the bricklayer because Hans Stringer's Hans Stringer, but this is really all about the bricklayer. My dream for him is to just get him doing tons and tons of juice and get him up to 205, just completely swollen, just jacked up, and then just
can't even turn his head. That's how juiced we want him.
Yeah, exactly. No neck turn allowed. Just the shoulder muscles are so tight that he can only look forward. Exactly. When he turns, he has to swivel his hips constantly. Just send him out there to throw bungalows against clowns. Send him out there to get knocked out against Anthony Johnson. Send him out there to get knocked out against, I don't know, who's the other British phenom that we have who ended up...
Jimmy Manuwa.
Thank you. Yeah, get Jimmy Manuwa needs a KO. Put him out there against the bricklayer. There you go. But every once in a while, the bricklayer is going to turn it on and just like land a crazy uppercut or a winging punch, just put someone's lights out.
Yeah, I think he could knock out Maldonado. I'm going to be real. I think
that's the dream matchup.
The first start fight to get him that win at 205. That can go either way.
The money-weight fight of 2015 is Fabio Maldonado against Yair Latifi. Make it the main event of a Fight Pass card. It's gonna happen. What odds do you put on that fight? I think Maldonado's clearly the dog, but probably not more than 200.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of Maldonado love out there, and they're a very similar fighter. They both get hit. They both don't have the best defense. I don't know, man. Fight doesn't go the distance would probably be like a negative 2,000. It'd be something ridiculous, but it'd be awesome. Neither of their chins would hold up. It can't. Neither of them can. Neither of them have
There was a significant chance of a double knockout happening in that fight.
God,
Snap prop would be available.
That'd be glorious. Would that technically be a draw then?
I think they should just like count who gets up first, kind of like a WWF match. First guy to get to his feet becomes the winner then.
That's true, and I would say Maldonado would get up to his feet first. Although he can take a lot of damage, although he can get knocked down and knocked out, I feel like he would get back up. He's used to the 10 count of boxing, whereas I think our buddy the bricklayer, as awesome as he might be, would just lay there stunned, looking up the lights for quite some time. It's a lot of heft, especially after we give him all that juice to be able to get up off the ground. And like at that point, when all your adrenaline's gone, you can't physically lift the muscles. It's mostly water anyway, so he'll have trouble getting up.
It's not just will he be able to recover, but can he bring the extra 20 pounds of just pure juice that we're going to be just pure horse steroids that we're injecting into him constantly. But then again, that might give him the superhuman chin. That might give him the Wanderlei Silva chin.
That might break his hand on just the sheer muscle that is inside him, because with all the HGH and all the different type of crazy steroids, like we're going to get him on that Hector Lombard shit. You don't even understand.
The nuclear.
The right doctor in Florida, where every 15 minutes in training they pull you off to the side and they oil you up with the weird lotion that it soaks directly into your skin, and his muscles become as tight and as strong as diamonds. He will break Fabio Maldonado's hands just with his backs. It will be glorious, and then he will do a dance. All chest down,
which
up,
would only make the fight better, because or Maldonado's just clearly not on any steroids ever.
Oh, not at all. My favorite non-steroid 205 guy needs to lift some weights fight would be Fabio Maldonado versus Nikita Krylov, because neither of those guys have like any muscle mass to them. They're both sagging in all the awkward places, and they both have the most. I can't remember if Maldonado does, but Krylov's tattoos. Oh, it'll be wonderful. A little Al Capone versus the Terminator. That one would be great as well. Although no one's on juice in that fight. I think they should fight, and then whoever's standing last. You have Ilar Latifi run in, kill him all,
suplexes them both,
and then he'll have so many steroids that he's gonna be purple, like that kind, and then he's gonna go run home and celebrate with his beautiful queen wife Latifa, and they're just gonna have a wonderful time, and just that'll. I'll watch that. I'll watch that every day for my life. It's wonderful.
Absolutely, that's the dream of MMA right there. You know, we want to see that whole story. The UFC is really slacking and only showing us what's going on in the cage. Why aren't you letting other fighters storm the cage? That should happen. You know, after a clear KO win, because this is what happens. Let me break it down to you. Nikita Krylov, Al Capone, annihilates Maldonado. Just clean clocks him. He's got that deep Russian just...
He's got the Ukraine strength. That's good. He's going down. I understand. I'm with you.
Yeah, of course that happens. And that happens early. Then, Ilir Latifi, running down the corridor, hops in the cage.
Riding on his horse. If you haven't seen the picture, it's wonderful. Look it up on James Lynch, his Twitter. Just riding, galloping up on that horse shirtless, just ready to get going.
The horse leaps the cage, one bound, lands fully in there. He dismounts like a gentleman. Doesn't fight him on horseback. Like a gentleman dismounts.
Ties up the stirrup to the cage. You don't want the horse running away. You want to be nice to the horse.
Tosses the reins to the referee. The ref, eye on the prize, catches the reins, keeps the horse in check. There you go. Then
it's Yosemite Sam ref. It's the only way it works. It's like horsetail mustache, so it just a whole another level.
Love it. Suplex finish, hops on the horse, and instead of hopping the fence this time, they just go straight through the cage, out. We have a 30-minute break during Fox Sports 1 to repair the cage. Patty O'Houlihan's fight is canceled.
It's the biggest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
It's probably realistic. That's definitely what happened today. In fact, if you didn't watch the card, that was the result of the Ilir Latifi fight.
Now Conor McGregor, we can have Ilir Latifi gallop up on a horse. You just got to clear it. You got to make sure there's some stuff down in case the horse has to do his business. But we don't need to see that on camera. You just see him galloping up and just ride up on there on the steed, and then they'll refer to him. It's like, oh, you rode up on your stud. But they weren't talking about the horse. They were talking about Ilir Latifi, because with those extra 40 pounds of muscle from that just straight steroids, it's just going to be like looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger in 77. It's going to be glorious.
I'll be honest with you. If you look at that picture of him riding the horse doesn't look too happy. The weight is already a lot for that horse to take. You know, if that poor guy puts on another 20 pounds of steroid weight, we're going to have to get a bigger horse.
At any minute, he's going to squeeze his legs together and snap it in half. I don't know.
All right, let's bring it back to this card. Not a really great card for underdogs. We had two underdog winners. Evan Dunham with a nice underdog pop, and Micheal Lebout whatever you want to pronounce that, if you want to go real French or real American with it. Do we get caught up betting some of these dogs? I heard a lot of people, throwing out a lot of dog bets this week. Did you get burnt too much on dogs, or did we do all right?
Not too bad. I didn't bet a lot of the earlier fights. I think the first fights I bet was with Stevie Ray and Latifi. If I don't know a fighter and I haven't seen, if I can't bring to my memory at least 1 to 2 of their fights, I don't bet it at all. But as far as the Dunham went, I picked Pearson, but I had money on Dunham just because I thought it should be a pick'em, and then, like I said, just a little bit on Pearson by TKO, just a little safety net. But I think I had 1 unit on the plus 215, and then if you take out what I lost on just my cover, I think it's plus 1.5 or something like that, which that plus Bisping actually winning and a couple of parlays that got finished with Latifi. I'll have to double check, but I think I broke even, or I'm at a slight loss for this week.
That was a big swing against.
I got burned a lot on 189, so I'm just trying to all bring it back to 189.
Yeah.
That line on Mendez. They kept teasing me with that line on Mendez. They kept being like, well, so let's add 20 more cents to it. What? You don't want to bet 20 more cents on Mendez? Why wouldn't you want to bet 20 more cents on Mendez? Come on, you know you want to do it. It's like the little devil on the one side and the angel on the other, except the angel got punched in the face by the devil and his lips were too swollen to speak, and I ended up down, I think, like 4 or 5 units on that one card, which rarely, if ever, happens to me, and luckily I'm still up on the year, but God, that was sad.
Yeah, a lot of people took a little beating when Mini Mendez couldn't get it done. Even I got tempted by that movement. You kept seeing Chad build, and you're like, Chad shouldn't be that big of an underdog. Even I favored Connor the whole time, but still I was like, Chad. It was too much to give up, man.
I was happy I didn't fall in the same trap with Duffy on Wednesday. I did bet him, but although no, not that. One of the other ones, the lines kept moving, and I didn't chase it. I didn't keep betting it like I did with Mendez. So I think I learned my lesson with that one. Hopefully, because I would, like I said, I think I said it at Twitter at one point. I would have loved to have just 2 units on him at not even his highest, plus 130. Sure, I would have been more than fine with that. But it just kept moving and kept moving, and I was trying to make up to the money I had him at minus 130 and minus 115. I've only had that much money on one fighter before. Luckily, that one came through, but man, was I nervous.
Yeah. Poor Chad Mendez kind of had his moment in the fight, and just those body kicks accumulated and lost his shot. Let's talk about this card as a whole, and then we'll wrap up shop here. Overall, the whole entire card, what do you give it a grade? 8.5.
I'm going to give it a solid B. And what I mean by solid B is like when you go home and you got your report card and it says a B, you always re-explain it to your mom. You're like, Mom, no, see, that's a B. But that's an 86.4 B. If that was an 86.5, that's rounded up to an 87. That's a B+. I basically got a B+. So that's the argument. It was right there on the fringe. I honestly think, and this is taking my bet completely out of it, if there was a late round finish or even an early finish in the main fight, or maybe even in the co-main, because that started getting a little boring after a while, it could have bumped it up to a B+. But I'm going to stick with solid B.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Solid B fight for me. Definitely not so bad for the middle of the afternoon, recovering from a hangover on the couch. Well worth your time just to watch some grown men get at it. Plenty of time to recover and rehydrate to go out again tonight. And a free Saturday night in the world of being an MMA fan isn't so bad in itself.
And then Titan's going to take over time. It all depends how far you want to delve into it.
Well, here's the trick that I do with any show that's not the UFC. I just watch it whenever I feel like it. That's a definite. It's on Fight Pass. We can go back and hit the replay on a Titan late night tonight.
Titan After Dark, if you will.
Titan After Hours, yeah, where things get a little spicy. So right there with your B for the entire event. I think with that early in the main card, we had a little lackluster fights and a little bit of dragging going on, just because we were a little bit addicted early to those first round finishes. But some great first round finishes early in the prelim. Really keep it in that solid B range. So like I said, pretty good afternoon of fights. Is there anything we really didn't cover that you feel like we need to get to, Bob?
One thing I will bring up, as far as like, everyone, all the fighters are asking for bonuses, the whole 50K, whatever thing. For all I know, it's been announced now. I'm on this. I'm not looking at Twitter. I would bet money that the fight of the night is going to be the Calderwood fight, for the simple fact that anytime you have a fight where two fighters are willing to completely strike at each other, throw defense out of the window, and just throw, they're going to win fight of the night, because that's what the bosses like. Doesn't matter if it's a ground technical battle. It's like you could throw a little bit of that in there, maybe in your sub here and your sub there, but the dropping of the hands and just throwing, it's going to get fight of the night every time. And there's enough KOs and whatnot. The performance of the nights might be a little bit tricky, but UFC seems to like Calderwood, so she might get fight of the night and one of the performance of the nights, just to ease her troubled personal life, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think she'll probably snag the fight of the night. She had the hometown really behind her, even though it wasn't all that entertaining of a fight. And maybe I would have even leaned towards Patty and Von Lee for my fight of the night. So many knockouts that it's hard to say. I'd probably give one to the Bricklayer, and I'd probably give the other one to Jimmy Rivera. Yeah, but the UFC being the UFC, who knows? And maybe it's one of these nights where they give 4 performances because there are some really great finishes. All right, so that's it for the coverage tonight on Before the Baldman Speaks. I want to thank you, Bob. At MMA State of Mind on Twitter, and give you an opportunity here to give any plugs and shout outs to anyone out there who's watching.
Okay. If you guys want to check me out, like you said, on Twitter, I'm at MMA State of Mind. My blog is the same, www.mmastateofmind.com. I put my picks for every Bellator and UFC fight card. I try to put up my bets on those as well. If they're not up there in time, they'll at least be on my Twitter. They'll all get a little bit easier in the future. I'm trying to get better at the whole tracking thing. I'm not the best at that, but I'm getting there. And as far as shout-outs, anyone that's going to listen to this, and if you ever want to talk, contact me on Twitter. I'm up super early in the morning, usually at about 3 a.m., so if ever you're bored, I'm there, so feel free to talk.
All right, thanks for taking the time and coming on the show, Bob, and we appreciate you stopping in. All right, that's it for episode 8 of Before the Baldman Speaks. I'm your host, as always, Andrew Lawrence. Thank you so much for watching, and anything you do to support this show, watch it live on YouTube or watch it in the replay. If you do, please share, make a comment underneath, let us know how we're doing and what we can do better. Always appreciate your feedback. UFC Fight Night 72 from Glasgow, Scotland. This is Before the Baldman Speaks. I'm Andrew Lawrence. At the Clown Kid on Twitter. Peace.